Welcome, everybody. I am excited for today's conversation with Janet Bartoli, founder of Bartoli Consulting Group, a B2B digital marketing advisory that helps organizations align their marketing with real business goals, specifically sales pipeline and revenue growth. Janet brings deep experience with over 20 years in the SEO space, not just at Bartoli Consulting Group, but also at LexisNexis and Accenture. She has taught SEO masterclasses and built her business around a simple idea. Marketing should drive revenue, not just awareness. Janet, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be here.
Yeah, excited to have this conversation. I wanted to go back to the beginning days at Bartoli Consulting Group. You had a tremendous amount of SEO and digital marketing experience when you started Bartoli Group. Was there a pivotal moment when you decided to go out on your own, or a specific gap you felt compelled to solve? What led you to take the leap?
Well, I had started when I was the first year or two at Accenture. I kind of always expected that eventually I was just going to go on my own. And funny enough, there was a couple of guys on my team who were like, "Why aren't you just on your own?" One of the imposter syndromes is you don't feel expert enough yet. Even though I had all of this experience, I was ready. But glad they didn't leave too soon because being at Accenture was a great experience. I got to work with so many huge brands all over the world. And so that was a learning experience. The kick out the door was really, so I had gotten actually, we had at Lexis, there was a downsizing. So it was, and every 18 months they pretty much would go through that. Then I got picked up by Accenture pretty quickly. Then with Accenture, as you move up the ladder in that consulting practice, you have to have so many hours. And so it's a grind to really try and find work. And I wanted to take the track of subject matter expert and just kind of like be the one to create white papers for companies. They didn't have that any longer. I got to a certain level. I was doing a lot on the side, focusing on my own consulting practice. And then eventually it was like, okay, you know what? You're not keeping up with your hours, and another layoff occurs. So it
Right.
was more of a forced thing, but it was 5.5 years. So a pretty good run.
Yeah, for sure. When you got to Accenture, you had a lot of marketing skills already. But as marketers, we're like, okay, we can do the marketing stuff. We got the tactics, but the running a business part is where things, I'm like, wow, I don't
Yeah.
really have any idea. Did you learn those things at Accenture, or was that just like, okay, no, I got to figure this out now that I've taken the leap?
Well, it's interesting because I took a lot from Accenture where I basically said, this same work that I've been doing for these clients, I'm going to do for my clients, my own clients. But I won't be charging them six figures a month.
Hmm.
So I can basically leverage that same, expertise and professionalism. I had the operation down, like what a proposal should look like. I even crafted the proposals the same way, and then just went right into the work the same way I would go into we're largely project based. So whether it was an 8 week
Hmm.
project or 6 month, I didn't do any ongoing monthly retainer in a traditional digital agency. The part that agency owners like to ignore is the sales part, which is crucial. It's important that we as owners are in charge because nobody can speak to what you do better than yourself. I tried so many different ways for lead gen and trying to just jump in, get the attention. One of the best ways was I don't know if are you familiar with Conductor, Searchlight? Bright Edge is a
Yes,
direct
yes, I
competitor.
am.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So they're large enterprise SEO platform.
Right.
When I was between LexisNexis and Accenture, I was one of their like one of the people who was heavily promoting them. I mean, like an affiliate, but I wasn't getting affiliate pay, just a fan of the software. And so I would just really use it wherever I went. So when I got into Accenture, whatever client we had, I would always say to those in my team, we got to use this software. Like
Hmm.
we can't be using any janky, stuff that we're cobbling together. It has to be this software. We did a head to head, of what that software should, whether it's that or Bright Edge or others, and it always came out. Everybody liked it too. So I had this really great relationship with Conductor. After I left Accenture, I continued that relationship with them, and they basically brought me in as a business consultant advisor.
Oh,
One of their
nice.
clients was StubHub, and so within 6 months of leaving Accenture, I was able to jump right into work with StubHub. It was the fastest proposal closing situation. I mean, I literally created the proposal one day, the next day, I didn't even get through like sharing what the deliverables would be and what we would be doing together. And they were like, yeah, that's great. We have to get this started. We got to get the master service agreement done and move on this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. That was my initial experience. Now I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. I'll just throw proposals left and right.
Then things change. Great way to start off, though, through your relationship with Conductor. They realized you knew how to use the software, you knew how to get their clients benefits out of the software. So they just started connecting you with
Yeah.
their clients. That's a great way to go about it. Yeah.
It was the implementation that, like any of us in SEO knows, the fastest way to fail is nothing gets implemented. So you got all these amazing
Sure.
recommendations and nothing gets implemented. I was that implementer in San Francisco. I walked different business units. They didn't have that strategic director level lead. They had
Hmm.
vice president and manager. The manager team was the doers, the tacticians, talking strategy. So it was like, while I'm helping you with integrating all this stuff, you guys also are missing the strategist level, that director who needs to manage and basically get the whole organization on board with understanding how SEO works. And so that was another sort of like, here's a little bonus add in that wasn't part of our statement of work.
Once you get kind of, I guess, like a peek under the hood and you could really see what's going on, that gives you an opportunity to make more recommendations. And I have to imagine from your experience before that, you could definitely see like, oh, you have this giant gap between, vice
Yeah.
president and implementation. You've worked with lots of different brands, some really big names, some scrappy startups. They're going to have different needs, right? So like a growth stage startup is just going to have different needs than an established enterprise brand. How has that range shaped your view on marketing teams and what they need to prioritize?
Well, there's similarities. The similarities of Verizon or Fiat with a small startup is we know we need this, we just don't know how to put it together. What is this
Right.
program and who are the players? How do we do all that? The difference is those other ones have millions of dollars to invest. I went across 7 countries in Europe to find and recruit people to build a digital center of excellence for them. So that
Wow.
was easy because they basically said, here's the resources, go from these different countries, find who should be the best person, and then we'll sort of like architect this digital center of excellence around Europe. And and then the primary function was in Italy. But if you had a scrappy startup, they don't have that. They also don't have like a CMO or even a VP mostly. They'll probably bring in someone just out of college, virtually not a lot of experience, certainly not thinking strategy. They're just posting on Instagram, we're posting over on LinkedIn, and we're not getting any leads. So there's this like misunderstanding as to what marketing really should be doing and
Mhm.
forget SEO altogether because they just think of it still as free traffic. And so they don't understand what the differences of what how am I getting this traffic and what it should ultimately be doing. Certainly the conversation was much different in 2010 versus now. If you're going to talk about search engine optimization, you have to talk about connecting the conversion, the dots. And so many people say, well, that's, conversion rate optimization. No, it's the whole user experience. If someone is looking for an answer or a resource, you have to get them in, and then there should be some call to action. And then we can measure that call to action, which I know a lot of people will say and argue you can't really directly correlate that organic person coming in with that specific action. But we can get pretty close, and we do. A lot of my clients are seeing it like, this is really working for me. The other big difference is on the technical side of things, where Fortune 500 companies have the biggest need is being as having a technical SEO in place because
Mhm.
there's just the infrastructure, the different platforms, the onshore, offshore development teams. So that's the difference. A greater need than in a smaller startup.
Mhm. Little more agility, I guess, at that smaller startup. So, I mean, it sounds like you bring a blend of execution and strategic advisory. When you start a relationship with a client, are you looking for like some non-obvious wins that you can help them uncover, maybe some things they didn't even realize they knew they needed? Like, how do you typically go about the beginnings of that relationship?
That changed from when I started my consulting practice to now. At the time I started, again, it was like 2018, 19. I was just really pushing SEO. Like, this is
Hmm.
it. I'm an expert in this, and everybody needs it. Yes, it's a foundational element. Every digital marketing program should have, but now we're in 2025 with the onset of AI and how search has changed. Understanding how people are searching, across the generations, even, you got to have a different way, a view on it. In the last 18 months, I have shifted from focusing on SEO to the bigger picture, digital marketing at large. But even that, and that's one of the things that I now have done away with, is proposals, because a proposal is basically a recipe for, here, this is what I think you need. I haven't looked at your website, but this is what I think you should have because this is what I want to do. And that doesn't really work. I always use the expression, it's kind of like if you walk into a doctor's office with a headache and then the doctor said, "Oh, you know what? You probably have a brain tumor. Let's go into surgery tomorrow." Maybe it's just a migraine and I need some Excedrin. So why don't we do some diagnostic tests first? For in that situation, you
Hmm.
do a CT scan or whatever that patient would need. And then it's like, okay, now we can understand what's going on, what the root cause is, and then come up with an actual plan to get to what it is you're trying to achieve. So that's now why I've shifted gears into completing a digital marketing assessment. It's a paid foot in the door offer. And I got this from, I'm trying to think of his name. I think it's Jason Swank.
Oh, sure.
He's
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Colorado. Yeah, yeah. I heard him for years talk about this. And it finally occurred to me, that's brilliant because you're getting paid first. If they decide not to do anything, at least you got paid. Instead of spending hours on a proposal, they are barely paying attention when you're walking them through it. They just want to see the pricing page. And that's why I tell them right out in my discovery calls, just so you understand, we don't do proposals at all because it's not going to help you. What we do is this digital marketing assessment, and it's going to give you a full view. And so I'm using a variety of tools to put this together. And then at the end of it, it's a roadmap of, here's the next 6 months, because I don't even want to give them 12 months because who knows what happens between the business, economy, searcher behavior,
Yep.
everything in 6 months could change by the end of the year.
That's interesting. I love having that paid foot in the door offer, essentially
Mhm.
getting paid to do the discovery because you bring up an
Right.
excellent point. Like me just being like, oh, here's a proposal of my services does not necessarily help the client. You really do have to dig in and figure out what the problem is first before you can offer a solution. So, what kinds of clients are you working with now? So, like the clients that you're able to tell them, like, hey, I'm not just going to give you a proposal. I want to do this assessment and I want to give you a roadmap. Well, tell me what kinds of clients you're working with that go for that.
Right now, we're focused on industrial manufacturing companies. It's a good fit because they have a good understanding of sales. It's like they're all about sales, but they don't understand the marketing aspect. And so or they do understand, is we don't understand how the strategy fits in with sales. So I basically am talking to them about marketing and sales enablement and how they should be working together. Before digital marketing, I was in sales. So I have a good understanding of what sales
Hmm.
is. And then now I go into marketing and then I can see why sales was completely ignoring marketing and vice versa. So I try
Hmm.
to help them work together. I'm not talking about tactics, so I'm not talking about, your backlinks or your profile leaves much to be desired. We should really do something with that. Like, they don't care about any of this stuff. And
Right.
that's what I try and tell a lot of, like, the junior people that come into the team. It's like, do not talk to them about anything tactical,
Hmm.
especially when you're talking to, if it's an SEO manager, that's one thing. But if you're
Hmm.
talking to a CMO or CEO, forget it. I had one CEO a few years ago when I was doing proposals, and I'm having this conversation with her, and I was saying something about SEO and the advantages, and she was considering selling her business, and I was talking about the advantages of getting traffic. It would be more valuable, and that's where this SEO program will really help. And so she said, "What is SEO anyway?" And I just thought she was being facetious. "What is it?" She was like, "No, really." And I was like,
Yep.
I was shocked. This was not some 80-year-old. She was in her 40s. Who doesn't know SEO? There are people that don't
Oh yeah.
understand what that is.
We're mired in it every day. I think it's the curse of knowledge. You have the knowledge, it's second nature to you, so you just think that everybody else has it too. I couldn't agree with you more. I call it feature brain. I try to turn off I don't
Right.
want to talk about tactics or features. Let's get to business objectives. That's what the CEOs want. That's what they're really trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like you're able to structure those conversations in a way that resonates with them.
Yeah, definitely. Then they understand, oh, yeah, I need more leads.
Yeah.
That's your primary objective. There's ways we can do that. We go through the assessment and then it starts to make more sense to them. So,
Hmm.
yes, just speaking in their language, something I absolutely learned actually before going into Accenture. I learned it at LexisNexis because I was there speaking to a lot of lawyers. Anything technical would go over their heads. How do we speak in practical terms they
Right.
understand?
I can get your phone to ring. It's
Right.
much less about the tactics. With your experience in sales, you spent a lot of time inside of marketing. There is definitely a shift happening, I would say, right now between marketing and sales. I love that you're talking about enablement and alignment between those two. So I'd love to get your perspective on this. I heard someone say, I think it was Marcus Sheridan, but I don't know 100%, that 80% of what marketing does, sales used to do. The buyer journey has changed so much that it used to be that a customer or a prospect would talk to sales pretty early on in the journey. But that doesn't
Mhm.
happen anymore. People are doing so much of their own research now. They want to do it all on their own, and they just want to talk to a salesperson when they're really ready to pull the trigger. Do you agree with that? Like, what's your take on
I think if you're familiar with Sportoro
that?
software,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
He does I mean, he always speaks brilliantly about whatever topic. It's just resonates so well. But when he's talking about, and it's very similar in this, where everybody is talking about, in other platforms about a specific problem, the brand name starts coming up in conversations, whether it's on Reddit or over on LinkedIn. And then people are going to Google and then they're typing in that brand and then go to the website. Now they may not buy there, so they may leave and come back another time. And maybe it's that back another time where they're finally filling out the form or the chat bot to, I want to speak to sales rep. I do agree it's a different time. Many more brands to compare.
Yeah.
Or if you're talking about even agencies, you're still you got so many that you're competing with. It's like, what's the differentiator? So they are trying to be cognizant of their time and want to narrow it way down. So and that's where marketing helps, is if you provide for that type of information in that top or middle funnel section of the awareness stage, whether it's a YouTube video or whether it is, a piece of content in the website. I always tell the sales team, I'm like, look, marketing is just really warming up these leads for you. So it's easier to close. Frequently asked questions or all those other things that their objections maybe are handled in all the content that we have out there. So
Right.
it's easier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it does seem like you really take a focus on aligning messaging and the demand generation with revenue goals, tying marketing and lead gen to revenue. You talk to the sales guys about this. Are there typically internal disconnects between marketing and sales and maybe even executives as to like what each, siloed discipline's role should be?
Not so much, I mean, again, if you know anything about especially SEO, the disconnect usually is typically with the development teams. So I felt more pushback from them than sales. Sales, I have seen they do maybe have a rigid sort of a structure in place and a process and a thinking of we just need to grow our sales team, so it's just some of them just have this old way of thinking rather than, and then there are some that I've approached where they were like, yeah, absolutely, we need a more current way of thinking about how do we bring marketing in at the front end to help us. We don't need to grow the sales team larger. We need better qualified marketing leads. That's
Mhm.
really where the onus is on marketing to bring them.
And then keep the sales guys busy.
Exactly.
Is there something, I know you said you mostly are working right now with industrial manufacturers, and that's going to be a very different business model than a digital agency. I'm sure in conversations with clients, do you find tactics that work for Bartoli Consulting?
Certainly, things like account-based marketing, or you're basically identifying, whether in LinkedIn, that specific target that you're looking for, and then building out a program to, address whatever needs they have. You can totally do there. That has been a big one for what we do for the manufacturing industry. There's many others from an SEO standpoint. Topical authority is big. It's associating your brand with what you do. I've tested it in different LLMs, whether it's Perplexity, Gemini, or ChatGPT. What do you know about me and my company? It's interesting to see it's pulling information from online resources, which means you need to make sure your brand stands out. Same applies for the manufacturing industry. Share a voice when it comes to your brand and being associated with what you do, whether it's the agency or the manufacturer. Definitely a lot of overlap.
That sounds like an interesting exercise to ask ChatGPT what it knows about me and my company. I'm a little scared to do it, but I think I'm going to have to. It's a great
It's
idea.
humbling.
Somebody who delivers both strategy and is very execution minded. You don't want to just hand somebody a document and be like, here's your roadmap, here's your strategy. Good luck implementing. It's clear you help your clients take it to the next level and actually get it executed. Is there something like, do you find you have to establish certain boundaries or guardrails? How do you, I guess, just define the working relationship with your clients so that you can just make sure that they're getting the outcomes they need? And also that you can show them like, hey, we're having an impact on the outcomes you need.
Mhm. Most are very receptive to the recommendations. I walk them through everything and then identify who's going to be implementing this work. I am not one of the old school SEOs that wants to jump into somebody's server environment and start messing around. I'll tell them we need to assign someone. Generally, it's their development team or an offsite agency. I'll work directly with them to project manage and make sure that we're getting the changes in and getting those done. Because you're right. The worst thing is just, flip it over in an email and say, here's what you need to get done. They have no idea what they're looking at. So that's the same practice as what I did in Accenture. We're going to walk you through step by step and handhold to make sure you know exactly how to get this little QA check to make sure it was implemented correctly.
I want to ask you touched on LLMs, so this doesn't have to be your answer, but this is the part of the show where we end up talking about AI a lot. What are you looking at for the next 12 months, next 18 months that's going to affect, what's on the horizon that's changing the way Bartoli Consulting Group works, but also changing the way your clients work or how they get results?
I think it's still always the there's a lot of people talking about, GEO or SEO and versus this.
Mhm.
The same basic practices still hold true. You need to keep in mind. And then there's little things that people will nitpick at. Well, does schema really work? And is it really showing up? Is LLM really picking that up? I'm like, you're getting like lost into the weeds of it all. It's at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it comes back to and that's why if I'm talking about Spartoro a lot, it's because this is a great platform to understand who the audience is. So whether it's now or 18 months from now, I still think it's going to be who is that person your client is trying to attract and where
Mhm.
are they? They're no longer just on Google because it's not 2005. So where else are they? And how do we create more of an omni-channel messaging? I'm trying to get those very shy with video of my clients to like get into YouTube. Like that is still the
Mhm.
number two search engine. For years, it's been the number two search engine. And so, and it's not just, people learning like how to, barbecue. I mean, there's
Mhm.
all kinds of channels. And especially with my manufacturing clients, there's, and I tell them like, just take your iPhone, go down on your floor where your guys are actually building whatever that thing is that you're building, 3 minutes. That's it. You'll be amazed at how many people find that fascinating, especially a product engineer who's looking to understand what it is that you guys do and how are you doing that differently, you know? So,
Yeah.
and it's part of the brand. I always take a 30,000-foot view, and I think that's served me well all the way back from 2004, which, if you can imagine, the differences in the way we searched then and what we were searching on. I think Ask Jeeves was still around, which was pretty useless. Think about how we're trying to get this smarter. And whether it's ChatGPT to, create code for something or creating a custom GPT to do something quick and easy. At the end of the day, it's still how do we help that person find what they need and your client to get the sale.
It's still the fundamentals, right? As much as things have changed,
Mhm.
you have to remember those fundamentals. Thank you for sharing your insights, Janet. Before we go, is there someplace online you'd like to send people to? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, well, I talked about YouTube, so I have my YouTube channel at
Nice.
Janet Bartoli. You can find me on LinkedIn too, of course. It's also Janet Bartoli there. I'm always talking about all kinds of things, marketing. The YouTube channel is more geared to especially service-based owners, less so on the manufacturing side, where I'm really kind of talking to other agency types and people who just need other help about, how to grow their business.
Awesome. I will put links to both in the show notes. Thanks again, Janet.